On February 25, 1956, Nikita Khrushchev, the former Kremlin leader, revealed and denounced for the first time in the history of the Soviet Union the crimes of his predecessor, Joseph Stalin. Now, Khrushchev condemned Stalin in a secret speech at the 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party. And when Khrushchev pronounced his famous denunciation of Stalin, someone in the crowd was reported to have said, "Where were you, comrade Khrushchev, when all those innocent people were being slaughtered?" Khrushchev paused, looked round the hall and said, "Will the person who said that kindly stand up?" Tension mounted in the hall. No one moved. Khrushchev then said, "Well, whoever you are, you have the answer now. I was in exactly the same position then as you find yourself in now." Friends, most of us can relate to this inner struggle. As children, as teens, and even as adults, we may have been timid about doing the right thing if it meant going against the grain. It is common to face situations in which we wish to say something or behave differently but find it difficult to do so. This hesitation usually stems from our concern about what others feel about us and our fears regarding how they would react. We fear rejection, disapproval, a damaged relationship, or retaliation. People who circumvent confrontation typically prioritize the short term comfort of an unpleasant situation over the potential awkwardness involved in resolving their concerns. They prefer short term comfort over long term growth. Most people are scared of being criticized. That is probably the reason why passive bystanders always outnumber active ones. Now, the courage of your conviction is a force that compels you to stand up and speak up when things are wrong. It's something that drives you to action and pushes back fear of speaking up because the fear of doing nothing is much greater. Now, in 1943, a soft spoken Afro American woman entered a bus and, after paying her ticket, walked straight to the back and sat down. The bus driver told her to get up and exit the bus and enter through the door in the back as the law required. She exited the bus and waited for the next one, committing to never ride that driver's bus again. Now, that woman's name was Rosa Parks. 12 years later, on a chilly evening on December 1st, somewhere in 1955, on a busy street in the capital of Alabama, this 42-year-old seamstress boarded a segregated city bus to return home after a long day of work, taking a seat in the middle just behind the front white section. Now, at the next stop, more passengers got on. When every seat in the white section was taken up, the bus driver ordered the black passengers in the middle row to stand up so that the white men could sit. The seamstress refused. Rosa Parks was arrested and convicted of violating the laws of segregation. She was tried and convicted of disorderly conduct under the state statute and fined. And despite the potential consequences of being arrested, losing her job, and even physical violence, she had the courage of a conviction to stand up for what was right. She stood alone on that day in her willingness to face great risk. Rosa Parks' defiance of an unfair segregation law, which required black passengers to defer to any white person who needed a seat by giving up their own, forever changed race relations in America. The boycott of public buses by blacks in Montgomery lasted 381 days, marking the country's first large-scale demonstration against segregation. And the boycott ultimately led to the US Supreme Court to outlaw racial segregation on public buses in Alabama. Now, it also spurred more non-violent protests in other cities and catapulted a young Baptist minister named Martin Luther King Jr. into prominence as a leader of the civil rights movement. Being assertive is a core communication skill. Assertiveness can help you express yourself effectively and stand up for your point of view while also respecting the rights and beliefs of others. Friends, if you can't stand up for what is right and you have no courage of your own conviction, then do not criticize. We are living in a world where it is so easy to criticize. Robert Kiyosaki, an American businessman and author, said, it's easier to stand on the sidelines, criticize and say why you shouldn't do something. The sidelines are crowded. Get into the game. Whether it be at our workplace, politics, community issues or international matters, we have become experts in suggesting how things need to be done. To be an armchair critic is probably the easiest thing on earth. Just sit back comfortably in the armchair, point fingers at the others, highlight their alleged flaws and probably feel good doing it, not realizing the extent of one's action on another. It's funny how an armchair critic sits on the sidelines and despite being a passive non-achiever can speak venomously on topics he may know little or absolutely nothing about. He is critical of others even when he does not have a clue of how a job is done. Friends, what distinguishes you from others is what you are creating. In life, it is either that you are creating or you are criticizing. You can never have ample time for both. Maya Angelou once said, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. It is either you are a pathfinder or a fault finder. When we are always on the lookout for faults, we will seldom find paths.